Hello and welcome to another episode of the Field of 68's off-season grades. My name is Rob Doster. I have Mike Tulip here with me, and we are going to be talking about the Purdue Boilermakers. Mike, they bring back Braden Smith, potential National Player of the Year. They bring back TKR, potential first-team All-American, was a third-team All-American this past season. They added maybe the perfect transfer for Matt Painter and Oscar Clough. They went out and they got Omer Meyer, an Israeli point guard that just tore up the U19s. And they bring back a couple of key role players in CJ Cox and Jakari Harris. And oh, by the way, Fletcher Lawyer is back. So you have a starting backcourt with a pair of 4-year starters that are at minimum all Big Ten caliber. Purdue looks like the preseason number one team in the country, offseason grade A plus 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 plus. We'll see you on the next episode of offseason grades here on the Field of 68. All right. Braden Smith, how good is he, man? Let's just start there. How good is Braden Smith going to be this season?
Oh, how good is he? Let's just start with this. I was doing some research because I saw that he's in striking distance of 2,000 points and 1,000 assists. Rob, do you know how many times it's been done in college basketball?
It's like Isaiah Thomas and no one else or something like that, right?
It's like never,
It's never happened.
never happened. If unless my research has failed me, Gary Payton got close and Sherman Douglas got close.
Wow.
We'll see. We'll see. Maybe during this episode I'll look up to fact check myself on Isaiah Thomas. That would be an insane
No, I
omission
think
by me.
Isaiah Thomas only played 2 years. So, how many career, like, how close are we to this?
He would have to close to replicate. If he replicates the assist, he's close to good. And he'd have to go, I think, to what was he, 16 a game last year? He'd have to be like 18 a game this year.
Yeah, it's
Playing
doable.
like
He
similar.
could
It's
do it.
in like it's realistic.
He could do it.
So if you want to ask me how good is Braden Smith, that's how good he is. It's historical, the records he's breaking in the Big Ten, his name being mentioned to Big Ten, next to Big Ten legends like Magic Johnson in terms of how decorated they are in the Big Ten. That's how good he is. And just the fact that Matt Painter is getting a fourth year out of him and just when we talk about preseason expectations, I have them as my number one preseason team too. Because what do we do every year, man? We say, who's your point guard? What bigs do you have? And who's your coach?
Yeah.
You got the best point guard in America. You got a potential first team All American, like you mentioned with TKR, and you got freaking Matt Painter. So what do we? I don't know why we're talking about anyone else as the preseason number one team in America. It's
Yeah.
Purdue.
I thought that I've said this over and over again, but his second half against Houston, who was the most
I was there
difficult,
live.
yeah, the
Yeah.
most difficult defense in America to deal with, the most difficult ball screen defense in America to deal with, and he absolutely shredded them. And that
Yeah.
wasn't even like the best game that he's played in his life. He is an unbelievable point guard. He's back for a fourth year. He's the preseason National Player of the Year for a reason. He's on the preseason number one team in the country for us for a reason. And I'm running out of like superlatives that I can throw out there for Braden Smith. And it's getting to the point where it's like I kind of feel like we're hyping him up too much because people are going to come in here and expect like I don't know the second coming of Magic Johnson, and he might just be that. Like he might just be 18-9 on the number one team in America.
Well, it's
Um,
different. It's just different. Like it's like he's not when you watch it, and I know this is a guy that's to be honest, like a shorter white guy. It looks different than if Magic Johnson's out there. But the production is the production. And we could say we're
mhm.
sitting here and hyping up Braden Smith. We've seen freaking 3 years of it. It's not like we're like, hey, I almost think we're like Omer Myers being hyped up too much. We can get to that in a second. But Braden Smith, man, I mean, he allows you to have the rest of your personnel just fall into place. And there's a lot of value in that.
Yep. All right, let's get into kind of how this roster was built because uh Purdue did lose a couple of pieces this offseason. Miles Coleman transferred to
Wake Forest.
Wake Forest. Cam Heidi transferred to Texas. Will Berg is gone. I don't think that's as big of a deal because you got Daniel Jacobson coming in and you add Oscar Clough, right? Um, there's two questions I kind of have with the way that this roster is put together, and it feels like I might be kind of like picking nits here a little bit, but I don't know how you use Clough slash Jacobson together with Trey Kaufman-Rent. I feel like that becomes a little bit of a difficult thing because Kaufman-Rent is not someone that's known for his defense, and he's not someone that's known as a floor spacer, right? And so, how does that kind of work when you have a landlocked big like Oscar Clough? I think it's a little bit easier with Daniel Jacobson because you kind of know what he is as a defensive presence, and I think it allows you to plug some of the gaps you had last year. And then the biggest thing is when I think that they're missing one piece. They were last year missing one piece on the wing that was a guy that could be both an on-ball menace defensively and somebody that you can kind of give the ball to, say, get out of the way, and he's going to go create something out of nothing, right? Like they didn't have that. All right, they just sent two guys on Braden Smith. They are doubling Trey every time he touches the ball, and Fletcher Lawyer is having one of his 0 for 16 nights. Who do we give the ball to go make something happen? And I think that CJ Cox, in theory, can be that guy. So we'll talk about X factors here in a second, but I don't think it's a secret who my X factor is for this group. I think it's CJ Cox. He takes them from being like the best team in the Big Ten to this team is a national championship worthy team and they're going to get it done.
Are we doing X factors right now?
We could, if you want. CJ Cox is my X factor. Boom. There you go. Throw it out there.
I said it was the combination of CJ Cox and Jakari Harris.
Yep.
I'll just start with Cox. I mean, Cox pretty quietly started 23 games for them last year and shot 39% from three, and was pretty steady. I think he guards at a high level, and that's why I think Harris and Cox are so important, because you mentioned the questions defensively, and last year defensively, it was a lot of let's get super creative to keep Trey Kaufman out of foul trouble. Like we have to keep him on the floor because of that front court rotation. So now that you've fortified that front court rotation, can you just be a little bit more, I don't want to call it like vanilla, but can you have more of an identity defensively? And I think there are question marks that, and holes defensively for his team if you were going to nitpick something, but CJ Cox and Jakari Harris, I think kind of fill those. So when we talk about offensively with CJ Cox, yeah, I mean, having like an on-ball stopper and then a guy that can just go create something out of nothing offensively, freaking any team would take that. I think, they're in the mix for Kennard Davis, and he ends up going to BYU, a guy with size on the wing, can make stuff happen defensively, can make stuff happen offensively. But I just really like this mix that they have. And I think that's why Cox is the X factor, because you don't just want to bank on like, oh, Omir Mayer, like look great in U19. I mean, is he just going to be a guy for Purdue? I think I have my questions around that, just like the scaled down nature of his game, which is going to be inevitable. So that's why a guy that's second year in the program like Cox becomes so important, because the shooting was real for him last year. And then even if you want to go with Harris had a rough start to the year. And I think that impacted some of the shooting numbers, but he was a 92% free throw shooter, which is always, I think, good for projecting, okay, can he be a guy that's 36% plus this year? And these are guys we're talking about as feasibly, they are the seventh or eighth guy you mentioned when you talk about Purdue. I think they were the seventh or eighth guy that we mentioned. But I think from a roster balance and rotation balance standpoint, like if you want to get a little bit of defense in there to balance out the offense that they have, like I think Cox is that guy. I think Harris is that guy. That's why those two are really important for me.
Yeah. I think the best thing for Meyer is that he's probably not going to have to step in and be more than like a 12 to 14 minute a game guy as a freshman, which is like, well, look, you're a lead guard and you're playing on the same team as Braden Smith. Like how many minutes are actually going to be available? And it more than anything, like it kind of, this is probably a different conversation to have, but the way that this program has kind of been built, like there's not going to be a drop off when this group is gone. Like you still have, like Jacobson's going to be a guy that's going to be able to be there and end up being your kind of go-to center next season, not this season, next season, 26, 27. Omir Mayer is there to be able to help bridge that gap. CJ Cox and Jakari Harris are going to be like, I think the way they've kind of built this to be something that is sustainable beyond having a superstar. Like the fact that you went from having Zach Edey, right? the best player that I've ever seen play college basketball, right? I don't care best player I've ever seen play college basketball. And after 1 year where you make it to the Sweet 16 as a top 4 seed, right? As a top 15 team in America, then you're back to being the preseason number 1 all over. Like, what are we talking about? Right? To me, this has been as good of a 4-year stretch that we have ever seen a coach have. And that even though they haven't won a national championship, I would argue that what Matt Painter has done over the course of the last 4 years, including this season, is as good as any job that any coach has ever done in the history of the sport.
Honestly, it's hard to argue with, because even if we go further back before when Zach Edey became Zach Edey, the way we're talking about Jacobson, and I don't want to put Jacobson in this category like he's the next Edey. That's not fair at all to him, and that's probably not probably not. That's not realistic.
He might be the next Isaac Haas, though.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you got to look at this team from whatever it was, 2021, 22 maybe, and just look at how Edey was staggering minutes with Travion Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, you have this kind of 2 timeline thing where once Travion Williams and Jaden Ivey are gone, here comes Braden Smith and Zach Edey. And they've done this a really great job of straddling those that dynamic, right? And it's not easy to do. And some teams just mail it in. They're like, well, shoot, we got a chance to maybe like make some noise in the Big Ten and contend for a title. Let's just get old. Let's get fifth year guys. And then once Braden leaves and once TKR leaves, what do you got? You got to overhaul again. And then you're just scraping to find your identity for the next 2 to 3 years. Like this has been like what you said. I mean, it's been one of the more impressive coaching jobs and roster construction jobs that we've seen. And the NIL and the portal era makes it all the more impressive because Painter's been a guy that has been, people have, kind of been like, well, he's kind of been reluctant to buy into the times. I mean, shoot, it's freaking working for them.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. I have a theory on that too, and I think it's because Matt Painter doesn't have his eye on the next job. Like I think a lot of coaches are, I'll build this team's roster, I'm going to win a lot, and I'm either going to get an extension, which gives me the ability to kind of build for the future, or I'm jumping to my next job. I'm jumping to a bigger opening. I'm jumping to something that's available. Whereas Paint is like, he's never leaving Purdue.
It's like Izzo,
right?
Yeah.
So it's like I can sit here and I can take a air quotes here, a bad season, a down season, because I'm never getting fired. They're not getting rid of me. And I've developed enough equity here where guys will put in the work to continue to improve and stay with us, right? And you're able to kind of have that retention and build a program as opposed to building a team, because he's not even thinking about leaving anywhere. Like he doesn't want to go to the next place. The next place is going to be West Lafayette next season for him. So I think that when you have that eye to the future and not eye towards where you're going to be moving to next March is something that allows you to be able to do that. I did just want to hit you on, so you got TKR, you got Oscar Clough, you got Daniel Jacobson. Like how does that front court all kind of work in conjunction when you have two guys that aren't really going to impact the game outside of about 12 feet from the rim? How can you make all of that stuff work when you have a point guard that's designed to be able to get into the paint and make something happen?
Yeah, I think part of the expectation setting too, like I wouldn't look as much at Oscar Clough's production at South Dakota State. I'd look more at Washington State. I mean, that feels a little bit more kind of the 8-5, be a guy off the bench, or maybe he does start and then they bring Jacobson in. That is going to be more. I mean, Trey Kaufman is going to play 30 minutes a game. I mean, that is depending on where he takes those spots. Like maybe he takes 5 or 10 of those minutes at the 5 and they bring in Liam Murphy at the 4, or they get creative in that way. But I think you're going to see a rotation of Clough and Jacobson. And then maybe if Trey Kaufman ran has foul trouble, then you see both them in at the same time. I don't see those two playing together very often, unless again Trey Kaufman runs on the bench. So Uh, it makes things interesting defensively, like I talked about, because Trey Kaufman-Renn is going to be on guarding guys that are more. If a team plays four guards, goes with a four-guard lineup, I mean, Trey Kaufman-Renn is going to be out on the perimeter because odds are you're gonna have Clough or you're gonna have Jacobson um, in there at the five. But it also, I keep talking about the optionality with this team. It also allows you to combat those, maybe five
Mhm.
out, four out teams and just play Trey Kaufman-Renn at the five. And then you have Smith and Lawyer and Meyer and you have Coxon, or maybe you go Murphy at the four. There's so much you can do with this roster. It speaks to the depth. And I think, even for how good Zach Edey was, like we talked about, he was playing what, 17 minutes a game when Travion Williams was there. Like, I don't think Jacobson and Clough are expecting to come in. And I'd be honestly pretty surprised if either of them exceeded like 21 minutes a game this year. I think
And
it's going to be a pretty
you know,
much a
you know what
committee.
the other part of it is too. Now that I'm thinking about it, you have it was kind of what you ran into when Edie and TKR played together because you could try to go small and space them out, and those dudes are just going to absolutely murder. Like you have to go big against them because you can't pressure them because Braden Smith's going to get the ball to where it needs to go, and those guys are going to eat you up inside if you allow them to be able to get the ball to them on the block. So, um, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, how much do you trust, what was really like a hallmark of those Edie teams? And, they did a little bit with Lawyer last year. They did a little bit with Heidi last year. When First was in there a little bit, like if you play those two bigs together, Jacobson and TKR, or Clough and TKR, if TKR commands doubles, Mason Gillis was great at this.
Mm-hmm.
Like Painter is just a savant at being able to pick apart where you're trapping from. And a lot of times he makes that four man where teams want to trap from the passer. So if TKR is posting up, like you have a 7'3" guy in Daniel Jacobson, if you trust him enough to not get guys crawling into him, to make passes over the top at that kind of high low spot for TKR to go to work. I mean, we could probably sit on here for 2 hours talking about the possibilities of what Purdue can do offensively because it's
Oh
freaking
yeah.
nuts.
Oh, yeah. It helps when you have that many options that are just absolutely lethal
And even,
as far
dude,
as
even
stuff.
Liam Murphy is a guy that I think this year is going to have like a 4 3-point game, a 5 3-point game.
I'm glad you
And
mentioned him. I'm glad because I forgot to mention. Like, I'm glad that you said his name because he's a guy 6'7" coming in. He was a what do you average like 12 or 13 a game
yeah,
for
41%
North Florida.
from three
Yeah,
in
shot
North
it like he got
Florida.
like 7 or 8 of them up, man. Like he is a guy
Well,
that can kind of fill that void.
and let's talk about the departures real quick because I think it's an important topic with Murphy. For all you want to say about Cam Heidi and Miles Colvin, what ended up happening last year was like how dependable were they? Like there were too many times last year, especially with Heidi, you're like, dude, you're open. Shoot the ball.
Mhm.
Like it's for, he was a really, really great 3-point shooter his freshman year on low volume. And you kept wanting more from those two guys. And I'm not saying Liam Murphy's going to be like freaking all league, but there's something to be said about, hey, I know when I'm in the corner, and when Trey Kaufman-Renn gets doubled and that ball swings out to the top and goes to the wing and finds me in the corner, when they're rotating out, that's freaking Liam Murphy at 42% shooting tee-ups. I
Yeah.
mean, or it's Fletcher Lawyer. Or, I mean, God, this is why we're talking about the preseason number one team, man. It's like
Yep.
every time you open a door or a door shuts, like another one opens. It's crazy.
And you know that they're going to be coached well enough to know exactly where that next pass has to go. Like they're not going to make mistakes, man. So
Yeah, their system, dude, like with Matt Painter, if you're a shooter, you got to be a really good screener. And if
yep.
you're a shooter, you got to be a really good passer because, we don't want teams helping off. I mean, that's why Lawyer, I think for everybody, I've seen people talk about like, who's Lawyer going to start? Fletcher Lawyer's going to start. Like he's going to start for this
You
team.
kidding me?
Because not only like
Is
he's
Fletcher Lawyer going to
probably,
start? Like Fletcher Lawyer is as locked in of a starter as
Rob, have you
anybody
seen
in
what I've
college
seen? I've seen
basketball.
it on the Twitter X sphere of just like I think people are so excited about Mayer and so excited about some of these other guys that they forget like the value of having a guy that's fourth year in your system that is a
And it's
really,
Matt
really
Painter, man.
key.
It's Matt Painter is going to reward his guys that have been there. Like if you're, let's put it like this: if Fletcher Lawyer doesn't start this season, then Omer Mayer is going to end up being in West Lafayette for 10 months. If he doesn't start, he is going to be a first round pick.
So you think if Omer Meyer, because he's not going to have the usage this year like he did with Israel in the
No,
U19.
what
I
I'm
would
saying is that's how good he has to be to
sure
knock Step Fletcher Lawyer out of the starting lineup. I don't think that's going to
agree.
happen. So
Agree. No, I completely agree. And you just got to think about just the way Fletcher's using that offense. The reason why TKR and even Zach Edey, those guys got so many great looks, deep post catches because of Fletcher Lawyer. And I'm not talking about spacing. They would use him as a screener. Like he's setting down screens, he's setting cross screens on the baseline, and you have to stay attached to him so that when he comes out, he's the guy that's receiving the pass on the wing to throw that quick entry pass.
Mhm.
When TKR and Edey have their guys sealed on their back. So like there's so much value in Fletcher Lawyer that, with Mayer, I just think again, like we have to pump the brakes. 2 years ago, Mark Armstrong was the MVP of U19 FIBA. Like you gotta pump the brakes. And
What are you saying here?
I'm just saying, like it's a totally different. It's so much closer to AAU than it is college basketball,
Yes.
power conference college basketball. And for Meyer, like yes, you can see the stuff where it's like, man, the playing with the ball, he's got it on a string. That the going his pull up going left. Oh, he's strong, he's built, he's sturdy. All of that is positive, but when you scale up your role, it's easy because you got more margin for error. You can do all these different things. You're not surrounded by this crop of talent that you have when you go to Purdue. And like I'm not saying that Omer Mayer can't be effective on this team. I think he absolutely can, but you're overlooking, not you specifically, but people are overlooking how hard it is when you have a guy that has talent that is maybe a little bit, maybe a year early on this team, trying to find like, okay, where do I fit in? Because I'm not going to be able to dance with the ball. I'm not going to be able to like have that ball give me energy. So am I a guy that's like a really good defender? Am I a guy that's like, okay, now I got to be a guy that takes care of the ball because I'm not the main handler? Like that all becomes really difficult for role guys. And I'm very curious to see if Omer Meyer can accomplish that this year. Because if he can, yeah. I mean, a guy off the bench, that's a really, really valuable piece.
Yep. Expectations. Look, I'm going to read some stats off
All
to you.
all
Purdue has won the Big Ten regular season championship in 2017, 2019, 2023, and 2024, right? They won the conference tournament in 2023, 2 years ago. They have been to the dance basically every year that the dance has happened since in the last decade, right? They didn't dance in 2020. There was no dance in 2020, right? They've been to the Sweet 16 3 of the last 4 years and 6 times since 2017. They've been to the Elite Eight twice in the last 6 seasons. And obviously, they made it to the national championship game in 2024. They're entering the season as the preseason number one team in the country, according to the Field of 68, and at minimum, a consensus top three team in America. It's national title or bust for Purdue this year. Like this is the year that they are going to go out there and have a chance to be able to win it. And I know we thought that in 2024 because no one expected UConn to be what they were. And I know we thought that once you got to about January of 2023 because no one thought UConn was going to be what they were. But this is the year that it should be happening, right? This is the year where you set that expectation as high as it could possibly be because they have the roster to be able to pull that off and make it happen. I'm not saying that they didn't when they had Zach Edey, but this is the year. Like, if he's going to win a national title, like this is going to be the year that Matt Painter wins the national title.
Yeah, and they'd already have one if it wasn't for that
Mm-hmm.
UConn team. And think too, I mean, with that, the UConn run, when they played UConn in the national title game, when they lost to Fairleigh Dickinson in the first round, like you're talking about these, a lot of key pieces we mentioned were underclassmen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then now 3-4 years later, 2-3 years later, I mean, this is you heard us talk about Braden Smith earlier. You heard us talk about Fletcher Lawyer. Like, I mean, Trey Coppin-Wren is an All-American. It's and Rob, where's the Final Four again this year?
Um, I believe it is close to the Purdue campus. Could it be in Indianapolis? Is that where it
I,
is?
I
For
believe
the
it's
Final
close to my
Stadium?
house
Yeah, I know, right?
in Indianapolis. Yeah, I mean, I think you can. I think if you're a Purdue fan, you just have all the visions, right? I mean, I was there at Lucas Oil Stadium for the Elite Eight game, or for this, yeah, the Sweet 16 game against Houston. I mean, it has potential to just be a really, really special year, not only just from like a win standpoint, but all culminating with, with a trip to Indy, not too far down the road with a fan base that, got like a taste of it a couple years back, and I, probably wants to finish this thing out the way they probably envision themselves doing it in 24.
Yep, I'm with you. So off-season grades, like what's the highest that we can give? A
That's why,
plus?
like, if anybody tuned into our Michigan one, I gave Michigan an A because I didn't want to go A plus because A plus felt reserved for this team right here. It's an A plus for Purdue, and I'm not even sure I need to like give you the laundry list of reasons because I think we
No,
just
no,
spent
you
a
don't.
half hour talking about them.
But I'm gonna snipe you here. I'm going A plus plus. I'm going double
Okay, well,
plus.
shit.
I'm going double plus. You want the double plus too? We can give you a double plus.
I'll let that be. I'll let that be your thing because I know in March weren't you going toe to toe a little bit with some Purdue fans?
Yeah, I mean, I go toe to toe with every Purdue fans every single year. I'll give Purdue fans this, right? They
I
are,
want your plus plus to stick out. I'm going
yeah,
plus. You go
you're
plus
going
plus.
plus. Well, look, I'll say this about Purdue fans. They are as passionate and as knowledgeable about college basketball as anyone this side of Kentucky fans, right? Like
It's
if you're
Indiana, bro.
yeah, if you're going to argue with Purdue fans about anything, like you better be locked and loaded. You better bring the heat because they're going to make you look dumb if you don't. I've learned that. I think I've gotten pretty good at it, and I will say this: I am as big of a Purdue fan as you will find that is not actually a Purdue fan. Man, I love paint. I love that program. Love Braden Smith. I love the way that they've kind of built it there. So I don't think you can get much better than A plus plus. Listen, Mike, this has been fun. Off-season grades here on the Field of 68. We're going to be rolling these out daily from now through hopefully September. I think we're going to get through about 45 or 50 of these before we are all said and done. So for Mike Latulip, my name is Rob Dosser. Go check out the Field of 68 YouTube channel for all the rest of our off-season grades.